If you want to age as healthily as possible, you want to stay strong, sharp, you want to prevent disease and even prevent the risk of dementia, then you really need to be focusing on the health of your gut. Now, the tiny microbes, the bacteria, fungi, viruses that live in and around our body, but largely in our large intestine, are key to how healthily we age. It has a role in digestion, yes, but it also can reduce the inflammation. It has a role in our immune system that can prevent cancers. It also has a role in blood sugar regulation and, yes, even supporting good brain health as well. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why and what happens to that gut microbe population as you age and what things you can do to mitigate against that natural decline in the health of our gut microbe population using diet and lifestyle and even social tools as well. So one of the key things that everyone needs to know about their microbes is that this population is super dynamic and it changes. There are 3 core areas in your life where you will see rapid change in your gut microbes. So the first is birth. So your gut microbes are usually colonized by either the vaginal microbiome of your mother. So that's where you get your first exposure to microbes, and those travel to your gut, and that's essentially what seeds your gut microbes thereafter. Or if you've been born by C-section, then it will be from other microbes in the environment, whether it's the skin of your mother or your parent or someone else in the operating room. That's going to be the first element where you get colonization of your gut. Thereafter, you have adolescence, and then it's stability. There's not really much change in your gut microbe population until older age, and that's where things can actually go a little bit wrong. Now, change isn't necessarily bad, but it really does depend on what changes we see. There are some types of microbes that are associated with unhealthy aging and other microbes that are associated with healthy aging. So if you see this diagram that I've got pulled up here, you'll see the different sort of buckets of microbes that are associated with healthy and unhealthy aging. Now, these are associations, so it doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't have, for example, Akkermansia or a type of species called Ocelospira, then you're going to have an unhealthy aging profile. But these are the associations that we see within the data. But there are certain things that we can do within our lifestyle and our diet that can mitigate against those. But first of all, what are the trends that we see with age? What actually happens to this important micropopulation at a population level? So the first thing is we see less diversity. In younger adults, the gut microbiome is a diverse ecosystem with lots of different species of microbes. They all work together to create health, essentially. But as we age, the diversity of our gut microbe tends to decline. And this decrease is linked to increased frailty, increased inflammation, and a higher risk of chronic diseases. So that's the first thing you need to remember. As you age, over the age of 60, you see a decline in the diversity of your gut microbes. That's super, super important and linked to health. The other thing we see is the presence of fewer protective microbes. So there are key species, things like Faecalibacterium praenicii, or others that are in the buckets that in the diagram that I showed you earlier. These have anti-inflammatory properties, and these tend to unfortunately decline in older adults. These microbes play a crucial role in protecting the gut lining, and these microbes also have a role in creating short-chain fatty acids. These are metabolites of digestion, and they contain things like butyrate, propionate, acetate. And what these short-chain fatty acids do is they nourish the gut environment. They nourish the gut lining. They support this gut barrier that is critical to controlling inflammation and supporting your immune system. So if you have fewer of these bacteria living in your digestive tract, then you lose some of your body's natural defenses against inflammation and other age-related diseases that are associated with higher amounts of inflammation. The third thing is you have, in addition to a less presence of protective microbes, you have a higher incidence of disease-inducing microbes. These are called pathobionts, P-A-T-H-O, pathobionts, like Ergothella or Dissolvifibreo. These bacteria can produce toxins, they can damage the gut lining, contribute to this chronic low-grade inflammation, also known as inflammaging, and they are linked to diseases like type 2 diabetes and even dementia as well. So essentially what happens is you have a balance that tips in the favor of these disease-producing or disease-inducing microbes and away from the protective microbes as well. So you have less diversity, you have fewer protective microbes, you have more microbes that induce disease, and all this can coalesce into the fourth thing, which is a weakened gut barrier. Now, the gut barrier essentially becomes more porous, also known as leaky gut. I'll talk about that in a second. As we age, we have a higher incidence of this leaky gut, and that allows harmful substances to leak into the bloodstream. And what that does is it ignites an immune system reaction, which creates more inflammation. That is almost like a vicious cycle that contributes to systemic inflammation. And we know that inflammation is this foundational process that is the basis of a lot of conditions: blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, dementia, and even type 2 diabetes and metabolic issues as well. So this weakened gut barrier is worsened by reduction in beneficial bacteria and a higher incidence of disease-inducing bacteria. It might be useful to take a moment and talk a bit about what leaky gut is. Now, leaky gut is actually termed intestinal hyperpermeability. It's where the porousness of your gut lining is slightly enlarged that allows substances to leak into the bloodstream that causes this mild immune reaction that can lead to a heightened inflammation response. Why does this happen? Well, your gut should be leaky. There is an inherent amount of leakiness that you need so you can actually absorb nutrients from your food. Let's talk a bit about the digestive process. So what happens is when I consume a carrot, let's say, I mash up that carrot in my mouth, that exposes that carrot surface area to the enzymes in my mouth that leads to the digestive process that goes down my esophagus into my stomach, where even more acid is thrown at it. And then that breaks it down into those building blocks of what that carrot is made up of. A little bit of protein, sugars, some carbohydrates, some other nutrients. And then when it's traveling through my digestive tract, those nutrients need to be absorbed into the bloodstream. This is the first time that the carrot is essentially gone from outside my body to inside my body. There's a bit of something that takes a little bit of getting your head around. Your body is like a big donut. This is your digestive tract. If you think about a donut with a hole in the middle, anything inside that ring in the middle of the donut is not necessarily inside the donut. It's only until you go through the pastry lining that you are technically inside that donut. Your digestive tract is one long donut. So anytime that I'm putting something into my mouth, I'm putting it into the ring of that donut. Until it goes into the body of the donut through the pastry lining, it's not technically inside the donut. So if you think about your digestive tract from your mouth all the way through your body, winding around the intestines and out the other end, it's one long donut. So for any nutrients that you put into your body, it has to be absorbed through that donut lining. And that is your gut barrier, essentially. That is the gut lining. So your gut lining needs to be somewhat porous. It needs to be somewhat leaky, but not excessively leaky, such that anything can go through into that donut, such that it doesn't cause an immune reaction. And if it is excessively leaky, there are too many holes in it, then microbes and other elements that should just be in your gut and be expelled out the other side can actually move into the bloodstream, move through that gut lining into the body of the donut, using that analogy, and that can cause an inflammatory reaction. And that's where you get systemic inflammation, and this is what is colloquially called a leaky gut. So you want your gut to be leaky enough, but not so leaky that it causes an inflammatory reaction. So when we age, the leakiness of our gut, the porousness of our gut increases. And that's what can lead to excess inflammation, that can lead to all the diseases of aging that we know and understand, increases with increasing age after the age of 60, like cancers, heart disease, dementia, and type 2 diabetes as well, metabolic problems. So if you check out this diagram, you'll see that there is an increase in the number of pathobionts, these microbes that induce disease. You have a reduction in the protective microbes, also known as protective taxa, and that ultimately leads to increasing inflammation. Now you'll see that there is unhealthy aging and healthy aging. The only option that we have is to reduce the acceleration of the number of disease-inducing microbes, to reduce the deceleration or reduce the reduction or the speed of the reduction of those protective species, and reduce the delta of the inflammation overall. That is what we can do with healthy aging, supporting our gut. There is no getting away from the fact that we are all trending in the wrong direction. But to improve lifespan, to improve health span, so the number of healthy years, what we can do is reduce the acceleration of these inevitable issues with our gut health. Why is this happening in the first place? It's probably one of the things that people are thinking of right now. Well, we see these changes because of a less varied diet. So aging often leads to less variety in our diets, whether that's from reduced appetite, from difficulty chewing, digestive issues, slurring of gastric emptying. Since the beneficial gut bacteria rely on fiber and other diversity of plant-based nutrients, this all leads to less diversity as well. So this accelerates that lowering diversity. And essentially what we're doing is starving our good microbes, our protective microbes of beneficial nutrients as well. Physiological changes like less stomach acid, less stomach motility can actually lead to this reduction in protective microbes as well. And more medications. As we age, as our immune system fails, we become more reliant on medications. There can be interactions with medications. There are things like antibiotics that increase in use as we age as well, because we're more likely to get coughs and colds that are bacterial in origin. And the use of these antimicrobial medications, as important as they are, can disrupt that delicate balance of your gut microbes as well. So if you look at this diagram here, it sort of summarizes these age-related changes that lead to the reduction in diversity of your gut microbe. You've got altered nutrient intake, smell and taste also affects our appetite, difficulty swallowing. All these things lead to reductions in the diversity of our microbes, unfortunately. Just a quick one. If you want to take your health to the next level, I highly recommend you check out the Doctor's Kitchen app. It gives you hundreds of recipes that you can tailor according to your health goals, whether that's inflammation, menopause, improving your brain, increasing your heart health. There are tons of recipes that you can filter according to your dietaries and allergens as well. Click on the link down below and check out the Doctor's Kitchen app. Back to the podcast. So hopefully by now you understand that microbes will govern healthy versus unhealthy aging because they regulate inflammation. So if you've got diversity of microbes, you've got less inflammation, which means less risk of disease. You've got better metabolism, so you've got less risk of things like type 2 diabetes. You've got a bolstered immune system as well, because if you've got a good diversity of microbes, you're supporting your immune system. Your immune cells is around 70 to 80% of your immune cells are actually housed in your gut, and your gut microbes are really important when communicating with your own immune system. And these gut microbes can also influence mood, behavior, cognition through various pathways via the gut-brain axis as well. So a healthier gut means healthy inflammation, improved immune system, improved metabolism, and improved brain health as well. What does a healthy gut microbiome look like? A resilient gut microbial population is one with the highest diversity. So everything that I'm going to talk about with regards to diet and lifestyle is going to be geared towards increasing diversity. There's a 2021 study in Nature Metabolism that found that older adults whose gut microbes became more unique, i.e. more diverse, aged healthier. They lived longer than those with less change. So those with less diverse gut microbes tend to use more medications and were nearly twice as likely to die during that study period as well. So the good thing is we know what occurs and what can happen if we don't have diverse microbes. But there are things that we can actually do to promote healthy aging. And diet is considered one of the most influential factors when it comes to the gut microbiome and how we optimize our gut microbes for healthy aging. So the first thing I would say is eat more plants. The ultimate combo for our gut microbes is providing fiber and providing polyphenols for them. These are like fertilizers for beneficial gut microbes. They absolutely love these products. You're giving them fiber, you're giving them polyphenols, they create metabolites that nourishes the gut lining, that reduces inflammation. This is exactly what they want. They want a diversity of plants. How much? Well, you want to be aiming for at least 30 grams of fiber per day from a variety of different plant-based sources. So this is why I always talk about getting your daily BBGs in every single day. Berries, beans, greens, seeds, and nuts. These are phenomenal sources of different sorts of fiber, polyphenols, everything that your gut microbes absolutely thrive on. Your daily goal is to try and get at least one of these every single day, a serving of these every single day. Daily BBGs, whether that's berries for breakfast or whether that's having some quinoa for dinner, a bowl of oatmeal. Try and get as much diversity as possible as well. The caveat is it should not be a replacement for ensuring you're getting adequate amounts of dietary protein in. Dietary protein is critical as you age because it is an essential component of muscle health, and also it is essentially the most important biomolecule in your body. It is responsible for hormones, the generation of hormones. Your hormones are built from proteins, bone, connective tissue, enzymes. Everything is made out of protein. So you want to be making sure that you're getting your protein in. We've done other videos on the amount of protein you should be consuming every single day. If you're an older adult, i.e. over the age of 60, you should be aiming for at least 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight every single day. So let's say you're 100 kilos, then you want to be aiming for at least 160 grams of protein every single day, largely from plant-based sources if you can, but animal-based sources are also beneficial and easily accessible as well. But trying to get as many different plants as possible, and the diversity of plants is another important goal, not at the expense of dietary protein. The second thing is cutting back on anything that can be detrimental to your gut microbes. Things like processed meats, things that are added sugar, and added additives like emulsifiers as well. Keep your microbial garden in check. You've got to essentially take out anything that could be detrimental to them. Processed foods tend to have emulsifiers, sweeteners, additives that can be detrimental to your gut microbes. They tend to have added sugar, which encourages your pathobionts, those microbes that are going to be disease inducing. You want to ensure that you're removing all added sugars as much as possible. Anything that can disrupt that delicate balance of your gut microbes, and processed meats are another element of the diet that I highly recommend you try and take out as much as possible, because they have additives that can be detrimental to your gut microbes. Now, there is a delicate balance to be struck here, because some folks who are of the older age category have reductions in their appetite. They can't consume enough calories and energy for their needs. So there are unique circumstances where processed foods are actually the lesser of two evils. If you can't consume that much fiber, you can't consume that much weight in food, then you might become reliant on drinks that are ultra processed. They're essentially high protein drinks that are really calorific. That's probably at one end of the spectrum. But before you get there, you want to try and ensure that you're getting enough plants and enough proteins from other whole sources. But there are unique circumstances where ultra-processed foods actually have a role to ensure enough calories are actually being consumed. The third thing is mixing up the foods that you consume. So eating more fiber is one element, but having a diversity of fibers in the diet is also important to promote a richly more stable bacterial population in your guts. And research shows that a varied diet, something like the Mediterranean diet, which includes lots of different sources of plant-based foods, has a positive effect on gut health as well. Currently, most of our fiber comes from few sources like non-whole grain cereals, potatoes, a few vegetables. And ideally, fiber intake should be coming from a range of different foods throughout the day. So that dietary diversity will help with providing a range of different nutrients for the different types of microbes, the thousands, the trillions of different microbes that you have in your gut as well. Things like berries, cocoa, dark chocolate, novel fruits, plums, apples, even things like matcha, coffee. These are all different elements that have unique fibers that your gut microbes will absolutely thrive on. So try and get some exotic foods, herbs and spices into your diet as well. There is a common goal now that is becoming a lot more well recognized of getting 30 different plants every single week. So that's coming from different fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, but even things like extra virgin olive oil, spices, and herbs. These all count to that plant diversity that you get into your diet every single week. So trying to introduce new novel foods as much as possible is something you want to preserve. So be really experimental in the kitchen and try different things as much as possible, because your microbes will absolutely thank you for it. And the fourth thing, so we've already covered eating more plants, cutting back on high sugar foods and processed foods in particular, and ensuring you're getting diversity. But the fourth thing, I think this is really, really important, is being as social as possible. Now, there is evidence that social isolation can negatively impact gut health, and maintaining strong social connections with touch and hugging is something that can support a healthy, more diverse microbiome. Loneliness is one of those elements of an older, or very commonplace in older populations, that is getting a lot more attention, as it should do, not just because of the psychological impact, but because of the physiological impact as well. When you kiss, hug, touch, you are constantly transferring microbes from one person to another. And that combination, that transfer of microbes, is actually something very similar to the first instance where you had your microbe colonized, your gut colonized at birth. This is constantly happening. This communication between different ecosystems is constantly happening with our social connections. So we are designed to hug, to kiss, to touch each other, and that transfer of microbes is actually super, super important to ensure diversity. And staying engaged with family, staying engaged with friends, those social bonds are super, super important. So ensure that you're getting out, joining volunteer clubs if you can, scheduling regular catch-ups in person, and trying to get out as much as possible with friends and family as part of your gut health protective strategy, something you should definitely not sleep on. So get some more diverse plants into your diet. If you want more recipes, check out the Doctor's Kitchen app. You can find that on the App Store and the doctorskitchen.com as well. But be sure to maintain your social relationships. It is critical for your gut health. If you want to know the 4 ingredients that I get into my diet every single day to protect your health and potentially even improve healing, then click this video right here. It's all about my 4 favorite ingredients.